Good morning, everybody. This is Dr. Rao coming to you on Clubhouse and other channels, including Wisdom, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube. Good morning. So, we have been doing this week on doctors and burnout for other professionals too. I hope you are all taking interest in this topic because it is very relevant to us, and that's why we were always paying attention to this. I hope you understand what I'm talking about, how serious it is for some people because they are not able to really have a good uh, good grasp on the burnout problem and be themselves completely. So I was initiating this. As you know, let me introduce myself. I'm a physician with 40 some years of experience in United States and have seen a lot of stress, and now lately we call it burnout, with the many doctors, especially after COVID. It has increased, and it is getting worse in the sense we are not really able to treat people very well, even those programs were announced, books were written, and discussions were done. Um, Essentially, the success rate in terms of people overcoming their stress and burnout and participating in their profession with joy has not been possible because most of the people either are leaving or leaving the profession, or they are really working in a very unhappy state, and possibly some people are committing suicide while they are staying there. It is producing enormous toll of suffering. So, saying all that and having worked with ancient wisdom and borrowing some hacks from them and enjoying my life, I thought I would share some of it. Not necessarily people have to follow it, but at least they pay attention to it and examine it. And after that, so they will take them into their life and then um, apply them so that they will be benefited too. That's the intention. That's why I kind of started this program. As you know, I'm a internal medicine doctor and also informatician, and also I'm a ancient wisdom student in terms of science of consciousness, yoga, Ayurveda, things like that. Okay, so there's so much that was explored by ancient Indians, Chinese, or Japanese, anybody. But I'm more inclined to the Indian ancient systems, which were a revelation to me. Actually, I was not given that kind of depth, which I'm reading now when I was a student in India, right? There were indications, but not everybody understood what the depth of that ancient Indian rishis' vision was. Okay, so bringing them here for the burnout, I kind of think couple of couple of things to put in context. I kind of coined a formula this morning, which would be appropriate to discuss here. One is be present, and second one is turn inward. That's my uh, formula for encountering the present day life's difficulties in modern living. Be in the present and turn inward. That's where your real happiness is. That's my formula. Okay. What do I mean by be in the present? Means we usually carry a lot of burden of memory or other people's knowledge in our minds, or we will be forecasting or we're hoping for something to happen in the future, right? Really, not really paying attention to what's going on now, what needs to be done now. So that doesn't mean that you don't plan for the future, but then you don't live in the future. You will have to adapt and execute what you are planning for the future now, right? That kind of action oriented and really oriented with the data of what is available now rather than depending on the past. Some lessons can be implemented, but don't live in the past. That's the thing. Live in the present and turn inward to find your real happiness, which is in ourselves. Once you have discovered that, then doing any job, let alone being the doctorship or let alone being the IT professional or leader of a company, anything is becomes it becomes much more joy to do. Then we won't be victims of the circumstances of what were beyond us and then burn ourselves out. Okay, that's a message I wanted to convey. I wanted to put forth for your consideration and discussion too. So there may be so much that happened in our past, but as we take our life and we are living our life now, what is in front of us is what really matters, and you got to pay attention to that. That is being in the present. I mean, so every day lived like that is all that we really have it, and then that's all we really living it. So life is being in the present. So whenever you pay attention to any problem that is happening now, you can bring in the technology, you bring in the know-how, you bring in all of that. But while you are doing that, you are in the present. So pay complete attention to whatever you are doing, and that really sustains your attention and then makes you give your all when you're doing something that will have a more chance of succeeding, and you will also not have this burden of other thoughts. Okay, after all, when we are doing something, when we are in the flow, what is happening to us, we are in the present. We don't have any interfering thoughts. We are completely into what we are doing, right? So that is what I would recommend to anybody, either a doctor or a non-doctor or IT professional. Pay attention to whatever you are doing through the day. So for that, in the morning, you can get yourself ready for that by being in your awareness, in your presence, and cultivating the first hour after you wake up without really, uh, being lost in thought, lost in memories, lost in past knowledge. You just uh, pay attention. Your attention is on the job. Okay, that kind of thing really helps me. For example, when I go to work, I kind of try to do one thing at a time and complete a decision. So once you learn that attention paying, what happens is there is a technique in yoga which is called uh, pratyahara. That means you withdraw your sensory perception and all that from that and pay attention to the next one, right? So that is really you pay attention to one thing and then you bring the attention out and pay attention to the next thing that you are doing. That way, multitasking can be tamed because you are doing several things but are not doing several things at the same time. At each second, each millisecond, you are doing one thing. That's where your attention is. That's a good formula for the modern problem of multitasking and modern problem of not having enough attention and getting interruptions all the time. Okay, so instead you kind of focus. That's the only thing that you want to do. You want to focus in whatever you are doing at the time, right? That is the first thing. Then you will not be focused so much more into the future and generate anxiety, generate a concern, generate a stress because you are afraid that you may fail or you may not realize your goal. Instead, just form the goals, then form a steps, several steps towards it. But what is important is the process, what you are doing. So each step you kind of focus on that, and then as the step is done you go to the next step. but not worrying about whether the next step will be successful or not while you are focused on this task. So the important commonsensical, very practical thing to do is pay attention to every action that you do. Okay, that way you are not mired in the past memories or regrets or whatever, and you are not mired in the future expectations or hopes and desperations and all that, right? So you will be successful with each step, and then that will lead to the success. Okay, so you are not oriented to the success, a goal, but you are oriented with the process. Okay, that is number one. I usually tell them for this to do that in the morning. I tell them, don't wake up your devices and focus on being here and now, and do some gardening or do some yoga, do some breathing, do some stretching, whatever, or do the exercise, whatever you're doing. Don't do multitasking. Just focus on what you're doing and focus on being in the present. And an hour or so you do that, then you approach your emails, your devices in a proactive way. What you want to accomplish for the day, do that. Don't get into the influence of people impinging on your attention span. They try to sell you things, they try to send things that are not necessary for your life's goals, right? And then you will be dragged into those things. So don't let them do it. Be very proactive in the first 1 hour of the life, in the morning, right? And then what you do next, you kind of maintain that paying attention through the day. Whatever you do, you pay attention to that. And then at the end of the day, come back and relax yourself before you go to bed, unwind, and put all the things away from your mind and sleep. This is a very healthy way of nurturing being in the present. That is the first one. Okay. The second one I always talk about is turning inward and realizing the true happiness that you have within. This was told by the age-old munis, rishis, and yoga person, or spiritual person, or Christians, or Muslims, anybody. They talked about this, that the real happiness is within us. Ancients called Satchidananda. Okay, so what you are, what your real happiness is within, that is complete fulfillment. Whereas other things that we go out for, external money or fame or anything, they are temporary. They may be pleasurable at the time, but then once they go off, they are gone, right? That's why you focus on what is permanent, what is real, which is within you. That's a big topic, but I just wanted to mention here what my aim is always. So these two things: being in the present and doing things, and turning inward and finding out who we are, what we are, and stationed in that, we are always blissful and calm and peaceful. Okay. So those are the two things I wanted to present this morning. And anybody has any questions, you can ask me at this time. Otherwise, I'll go into the further topic of this. Okay. I see a couple of my friends are here. Let's see whether they want to come up and talk, or they want to pose any questions. Okay. Hi, Nach. How are you?
Yeah, I'm doing very good, Dr. Robert.
Yeah.
How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. I'm concluding this series today, so that's why I came to the what I consider solutions for this burnout in general. You know. So, what do you think about those two things I mentioned?
Just now I was came, I didn't know that. And once I opened the clubhouse, I saw you. So you have to do me the pin, then I'll be knowing.
Yeah. Yeah. You see, I was saying.
Listening actually what you're talking about.
Yeah. I was talking about being in the present and paying attention to whatever we are doing. That is one solution. Other solution is our happiness is really within us. So turn inward and find that out. That's a big topic, but that is something I always thought very important for us to know from the ancients. Okay. So what do you think about those two topics?
I'm totally agreed about it because I am on the business and also I met a lot of people in Clubhouse from US.
Yeah.
Who they call the mind coach agent.
Yeah.
They also keep saying that we have to love what we do in our work.
Yeah.
So it means, but we have to be always having the attention for what we are doing.
Yeah.
So I'm totally agreed about that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then, why I'm saying it on the business is because the good ideas will start coming on once we start having with our own work.
Yeah. Yeah, that's why a lot of people, they get lost in their memories or they get lost in their future projections and then neglect living here and now and then really being in the flow of doing things. Actually, a lot of things get done when you are in the flow of things. That's why I mentioned that. So, do you pay attention to being present all the time or once in a while? How does it go for you?
Me, I'm always keep attention after meeting the right people on the platform because I'm learning things that I don't know before.
Okay. Yeah, it's a question of uh, really establishing ourselves in the presence in the morning. A couple of things I do with my group in the wellness club in the morning is be here and now of whatever you are doing with me and deep breathe. That deep breathing really makes the thought patterns to break, and then you will be paying attention to your breath, and that way you bring yourself to the particular movement of what is going on. See? Otherwise, you can unconsciously also breathe, but basically consciously breathe and bring your attention to the breath, and that becomes a practice for the hour. And hopefully, as you do every day, you get established in that presence, and then take that like a perfume to the entire day. That's what I was always talking about. I do it myself with them, and then I'm kind of establish myself in the first moment I come to the group, and then I invite them to come in. That means we won't engage in chit chat or casual conversation. We engage in being here and now and deep breathe and doing it equitably on both sides of the body, that kind of thing. And then I invite them to take it to the work life or whatever they're doing and continue that. If they are involved in the work and they forget about this, at least make a routine of breathing like this, at least for 1 minute every hour. And then you'll be brought back to your morning presence that you discovered, right? And then it becomes more and more stronger. For me now, I don't have to do every 1 hour, 1 minute, because I'm always in the present. That is possible. That's what I'm saying. So once you are done, then you finish your jobs without really getting involved in gossip and all of that. Then after job is done, then you can relax, have a coffee, chit chat, and entertainment and all that. But otherwise, this kind of all the time entertaining ourselves takes away that edge, that focus that you need to accomplish anything, especially for the doctors, because we're involved in something very important for the patients and for the patients' lives. So you got to be really focused on what we are doing sometimes, not all the time, maybe just a couple of hours. So I talk about what is called delayed gratification. So when you go to the office, don't try to have a cup of coffee, relax and talk politics and all that with the people, but focus on what are the most important things I need to accomplish today, and then start initiating them. Then you will get them things done. Then you can have a cup of coffee. So like you can have a coffee break or water break a couple of hours after you start work. That sets you well to accomplish the task that you need to accomplish for the day.
So how I start my morning is actually I do the yoga and I do the 5 minutes meditation.
Okay.
because I have some personal issues with something, so that I'm trying to escape from that the heart. So one guy I met in the like he advised me to do the meditation. So I started with the meditation.
Yeah.
So it also helped me to relax my mind much better than before.
Yeah, yeah, that's very good, Kashi. That is whatever works for you. You start with being here and now and do everything in that. Some people may run, some people may walk, some people may do. I see some of my friends do a morning club where they will be charting on the clubhouse and walking. That's also okay as long as the walking is done, because otherwise they are not able to do the walking on their own. But what I'm saying is, while you are walking also, do you have to chart, or do you want to concentrate on your breathing, on your legs, and on your stride that you take and all? So what I advise is, if you can be self-motivated, if you can do it on your own, do that, instead of interferences. So some people watch TV and do the, exercise on the treadmill and all that. So what I am proposing it, whatever exercise you are doing, focus on that, and at the same time cultivate being in the present in the morning. That can has more chances of going through. So if you start with meditation, that's good. What I do is, the moment I wake up, I know that I'm in awareness. I'm not in the stream of thoughts. So I stay in that awareness and then go from there. Okay. So that awareness is continued. And then I go out and maybe look at the nature and be with the nature, so that my thoughts won't activate and go. So now it doesn't happen because so many years of practice, right? But lots of people are now oriented towards paying attention to the thought stream stimulated by our devices. Things come at us, right? So many people send so many things. And if you pay attention to all that, then your thoughts will go on and you will continue. And then you will continue that through the day, and then also in the evening. And then they come and tell me, oh, I have this brain fog, I have this overwhelmed feeling, I can't handle all this data and all that. That's because we allowed these devices to stimulate that. Okay, instead of keeping that stream of thoughts in control, we are allowing them to be stronger. That's what yoga taught me, was what is mind, what are thoughts coming up, what are samskaras, how do thoughts that are not thought consciously can become unconscious and stay in your subconscious, and then they come back. So we allow them to go to subconscious, say, when we are unconsciously allowing thoughts to come and go. But if you are really conscious about all the thoughts, then the thoughts will come and do their function and go away. Then you have to bury them and go to the next task that you want to do. So that is something very subtle. But if you want to start meditation where you want to calm your mind, and oh, that is a good thing. What I'm saying is, after a while, you will discover, yeah, beyond the thought, there is what's called awareness. That's the first thing. And so I want to stay in that, which is really natural for us. But we allow thoughts to grow without really thinking about it, and that's why thought becomes so strong. Makes sense, Nach?
Yeah, actually, I'm listening. What you are saying is, I'm always listening, because I'm the one who listens with low perfection.
Yeah.
So sometimes this kind of things will be coming on the low perfection.
Yeah.
Actually, the human thought is everything that we are building. So
yeah.
If we start building the negative thought, things will go wrong direction.
Yeah.
If we have the positive thought, things will go the right direction.
Yeah.
So it will become on and off.
Yeah, that's an important point you made, Nach, because what we think the human tendency normal is something that we can change. It is not really normal. So we have to unlearn all that we have learned before, and then before we learn anything new. So that's why we have to examine, how are we? How is our mind is working? How are my thoughts are working? If you just examine them instead of giving into them, that means you should be standing a little bit apart. This is called objectifying the thoughts. As though thoughts are happening outside, you look at them, then they will stop. then you can choose what you want. You can replace the negative with positive and all that. So all this takes, first of all, making some time, sitting down, calming your body, calming your mind, and then observing the thoughts a little bit. That is that muscle. If you develop, then it becomes so much easier. So, like for me, I can watch the thoughts going, just like they are also another object. So I don't yield to the impulses or compulsiveness or any of that. That's all because of the practice. So what you want to do is you want to take deep breaths, bring your attention to the breath. Then thoughts come. Don't yield into them or don't suppress them. Let them, watch them like they are clouds in the sky going, and then you are watching them. You are the sky and watching them come and go. Right? If you can do that, then thoughts will come and go without really getting the strength to establish themselves. If you indulge in them, they do. If you suppress them, they do. Otherwise, if you just watch them, they will go. Then you can choose, okay, this is a positive thought. I want to execute that. Then you can take it and execute. It's not that big difficult if you allow this time and patience. And also, suppose thoughts go and they come and occupy you, then come back to your original focus of breath. That is the practice. Coming back to the center, coming back to the breath, coming back to here and now. If you keep on doing that, that becomes a real good muscle for that mind. And then it can stay there without indulging in the thoughts that are coming in. Not all the thoughts. Whatever you want to indulge, you can engage in that. Okay, that is the process I employ. Okay.
And Doctor, and also I feel one thing about the human mindset, because my mind is something what we call limitless. So we have to hold the presence on the way we think, the thoughts that we are making.
Yeah.
So that's also something I learned recently about the platform.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a long practice that will, because most of the society going very fast, and all these things that we don't really need to pay attention to, but we are forced to, because they are forced on us. Just really giving the importance of this early morning time, or at least sometime in the evening, where you say, I'm going to not to yield to this continuous thought stream, but I'm going to take a break and look at what is going on. And that is a very important thing for people to do. Okay. So that's why I wanted to take this opportunity to tell people what I do. I try to be in the present all the time, and it was tough in the beginning, but this kind of practice of bringing me, suppose you go away from the present moment, you bring yourself back to that by anchoring to the breath. That is called upasana. But there are more advanced meditation things that come later on, because you concentrate on your thoughts, and then you do only one thought, and then you go beyond the thought and stay in the silence. Once you learn to be in the silent sphere, silence, then that becomes a blessing, because your mind is not moving that quickly with each thought or each stimulus and all of that. Okay. So that there was a discussion between Arjuna and Krishna in Bhagavad Gita about this. Krishna tells Arjuna several times, you have to meditate, you have to sit down, you have to focus on your breath and all that, right? Then Arjuna says, Krishna, what you are telling is very difficult, because my thought is like a wind. It takes on and goes off on its own. Then he says, yeah, that is true. It is very powerful. It goes away. Krishna accepts that. And then he says, two things you can do that will really help you to focus the thought. One is abhyasa. Abhyasa means practice. So try to be present, try to be here and now, try to really follow each thought. Then if it goes away from that and goes into different thoughts about the future, about the past, whatever, then bring it back. That is the practice he was talking about. And the second thing he talked about was vairagya. That means dispassion. Don't develop so much attachment to whatever you're doing, and develop dispassion, because all these things are going to at some point of the time. So don't hang on to them as though they are permanent. Don't grab them, right? So that's a tendency. You can have things, but don't develop passion for them, or don't develop like a attachment to them. That's what he was talking about. So if you don't have that, then you will let go of things very easily, and then you'll have peace of mind. That's what two things he talked about, and I think it is a wonderful advice. Most of the Western methods I'm seeing, they are good at focusing, concentrating, and also really being in the present for some time. But then they don't develop this passion for things or thoughts or attachments. So many things they don't. They want all the material things, pressure, everything, and then they want to use the mind quieting and all. That's why most of the people, they say mindful, mindful. They are mindful of what is happening, but they are not mindful of what is happening within them. You got to be mindful of how you speak, whom you speak, what situation you speak, and all of that. That is not there. That's why this mindfulness practice, which is a $1 billion industry, is not really effective for the true meditativeness of what we are capable of. That's why I always tell them, don't say mindfulness, but say awarenessfulness. If you can cultivate awareness in everything that you are doing, then that awareness directs you to do stuff very, very easily. Okay. Did you get that, Notch, what I talked about?
Yeah, I'm totally understand what you're talking about.
Yeah.
And also, Doctor, what I believe, this kind of things will be understand on the subconscious mind.
Yeah.
People who want to develop their mind, they will be different.
Yeah. Well, the subconscious mind is not separate from the mind itself, becomes kind of like that because we left it alone. Suppose you have a thought and you are having that thought compulsively because it is coming from your past, and they pop up, and then immediately you are not paying conscious attention to it. You let it slip into the subconscious because you are not paying attention to it. Then it becomes what's called samskara, real buried thought. That buried thought will come back. Instead, if you don't allow the burying of the thought to the subconscious, then it would have. That is one of the things you do in meditation, is let things come up from your deep buried subconscious. Otherwise, subconscious thoughts are so powerful, they will engulf you. It's not your belief, it's a fact that the thoughts go into subconscious and come back. But if you don't see them like, oh, they will happen on their own, then you have no chance. But if you can see, okay, I buried them for some time before, now let me see these powerful subconscious thoughts coming up, let them come up and go. But I think Ramana Maharshi told about this. He said, say, look, if when you put milk on the stove and put the fire underneath, the milk gets hot and then it comes up. Like that, suppose you are sitting on a meditation posture and trying to meditate, you are putting the system under the heat, and all these thoughts and feelings, everything that's buried in your subconscious will come up. Let them come up, and then let them go. That's what he taught too. That's why he said, when you are working, it's not the amount of work that is the problem. It is the extraneous thoughts to that work that are coming to you are the problem. Suppose you are focusing on screwing something, a nail into a bench, and if you are not focused or present, you can get hurt yourself, because that's why you want to not to allow other thoughts to come in at the time of the task of getting the screw into the table, right? So you want to focus on that. You want to avoid other thoughts coming into your mind. That's when you develop flow into whatever you are doing. You are doing stuff, but you are not actually thinking about other things. That's what Ramana Maharshi taught me about whatever the work you do. If you don't allow the extraneous thoughts, then your focus will be completely on the job you are doing, and you will do better. This comes because if you practice of making your mind empty all these subconscious thoughts, that is a wonderful thing, you know. Let's say somebody else wants to come up, so this is such an important topic. So I was putting an advertisement, and everybody wants me to come to their meeting and tell them everything. But they have to make an effort to come when we make special arrangements like this. So it's kind of recorded. People see them later. That's a good thing. But I wish they come and ask me those questions they ask me when they expect me to come to their meetings and tell them different subjects, different ways. When I speak, I say, oh, this is very wise. But when I open the room, they should make an effort to come. So I'm kind of feel like they don't have a direction of where they are going, and they don't understand good things when they come up to them. So people don't take advantage of it, and they expect me to answer the DMs after they listen to it at their own convenience. It's very, very difficult to answer everybody's DM. Suppose they are here, it's much better. So, but anyway, we have done so far 36 minutes of the discussion on this topic. I hope people have got a good idea about what is being present I'm talking about, and how to keep their mind in the present, how to start the day like that, and then spend the day like that, and end the day like that too. So before you sleep, if you unwind your body, rest it, you unwind your mind, and also empty all the thoughts that you have accumulated through the day, all the reactions, all the opinions, all the judgments, everything, and then go to sleep. It's a much better sleep, and also you don't have a chance of retaining them in your subconscious self and let them come. So these are the three phases I always talk about. In the morning, try to be in the present, continue that like a perfume through the day, and before you go to sleep, empty your mind and go to sleep. If you do that, you are more and more into the present, and becomes it is automatic. It's not something somebody has to tell us, but we can cultivate like a good habit. Like we're taking shower, like that we can have a good habit of being in the present, and that continues, and the rewards are many. That's why I always tell about that. It's not fashion. It is not something I'm telling just because it makes so much sense, or so much practicality and all that. But if you practice it, then you will say, oh yeah, this saves me so much energy, and also gives me such a quality of work. And also you will see that you are not abusing your mind by burdening it with a lot of past thoughts or future aspirations. Sometimes past thoughts can be regretting, and then they don't allow you to be grateful of what you have now. And the future thoughts can generate anxiety or real concern or fear. For some people, it's a fear really, and that can deplete your energy. But on the other hand, if you are in the present, you are aware of what you have got in your life, like a half full glass, right? And then appreciate them and grateful for that, then you will work with more energy and renewed energy, and then get things done much faster. Okay, that is what I experience. That's what I'm conveying for you guys, so that you can practice being in the present. That's the first thing. The second thing I was talking about is turning inward and finding out the permanent happiness that we have in us, in all of us. That is the divinity people talked about. That is the divinity people said you are having this uh, what do you call Sat Chit Anand. That means the divine self is in all of us. Not that you are a great god or anything, that is egotistical, but recognizing that life that gives us life is within us, and identifying with that is the identifying the divinity. This is what Vivekananda talked about. He said, see, not only realize the divinity within us, but also manifesting the divinity and thereby recognize the same divinity in everybody. That's the meaning of our namaste too. In the namaste, what you do, I put both my hands on the heart and really identify the divine self within me, and identifying the divine self in the other person, we are prostrating to that. Okay, that is the meaning of namaste. Once we understand, once we are doing it all the time, either by word or by the deed, you can come back to the meaning and remember that, and it becomes a something very important down the line. Okay, so that is the second part. Always turn inward. Why inward is, normally our senses go outward and bring in the data from the external, and then our intellect also goes out of pursuits of things or money or buildings or cars or somebody else's love or all those external things, it goes out. But when you really understand what is within you, then you go back and then go inward with your own intelligence, with your own intuition, not outgoing senses, not outgoing intellect, but inward intuition. Go turn inward with intuition. That's like a feel that you have, that you are the divine self is within you, giving you the life. The life itself is the divine, right? That is the one you feel, and then you realize and you stay there. That is the privilege of the human beings. That is the importance of having intelligence as human beings, and then using it to really realize. But our state of affairs is like Kabir Das described, I believe, a deer, a special deer in the Himalayas. Nowadays their population is going down because they produce this. Uh, they produce this fragrance from the belly at certain season. What happens is they form certain musk, the perfume, and then that perfume comes out, and the deer wants to find out where it is coming from, and it goes to all over. It goes to the bushes, get the bleeding of the because of the thorns and all that. It suffers quite a bit, but the basically what it is it doesn't recognize that it's coming from within her own belly, right? So, like that, human beings also don't realize that they have this perfume of the happiness within, and they go out for things outside, you know. But the great yogis, great rishis, what they did was they turned inward and discovered that perfect happiness. They called it purna, wholeness, right? And then they went about the life not in pursuit of happiness because they are already happy, but because they wanted to help the world. And they produced tremendous arts, tremendous literature, tremendous skills of various kinds, not because they have to find fulfill in them, but they have fulfillment already, and they are reflecting that fulfillment into the sculptures, into the poems, into everything that they have. There are so many examples. Annamaya is a great devotee of Balaji, and he produced 30,000 poems. He also talked about this. Kabir Das, he was a weaver, but he had so much inward wisdom that he composed some poems. Even now, the songs are very, very popular. There was one song where he says, "Moko kaha dhoonde re bandhu." That means, where are you? The God, Lord is telling the Kabir Das, where are you looking for me? Not outside. I'm right in you, in front of it. Like that. He has so many wise songs he has written. And there are sculptures. There are great sculptures. They did so much of wonderful sculptures in the temples, because they were so perfect inside, that perfection came through whatever work they were doing. They were not compromising just like that for the sake of few money and all. They didn't even want their name to be written on the temple. So in ancient Indian temples, when you go there, you won't find the sculpture's name, because they didn't want importance to them. They gave importance to the sculpture, to the temple, to the temple as being the house of representing the god and all that. So they have pursue something very, very important more than themselves. If you can employ that principle that you're going to contribute to something bigger than you will have very little stress. Suppose you go to the hospital and then you are doing the welfare of the patients, welfare of the hospital, welfare of whatever is going on within the hospital, then you will have less stress rather than if you say, I'm going to do this, I'm going to get this much money, I'm going to get this much fame or name or appreciation. Then you will be disappointed lots of times because the people who voluntarily give it out to you, even if they give, sometimes it could be fake, or the sooner you lose your position there, all that is gone. So, but whereas with what you find within is always with you. That is the theme of the finding within. That's why they said the real purpose of any human being is to turn inward and find out who they really are. And for this, if you have outgoing senses and you are used to alcohol or smoking or drugs or anything like that, you will destroy yourself. Like that's why if you go out and saying, oh, I want a name as an author, I want to get a fame as somebody who wrote that and this, then there will be more better authors, better writers, better storytellers than you. And then the moment they come up, your name will go down. So it's all temporary. It's all anitya, they called it. Okay. But the nitya is this inward life that is giving you life, light of light, they called it. And that is the jyotir jyot. That's what they said. This is within you. And if you can light up that kind of understanding, then that understanding comes through you and you won't be dependent on anything outward. So these 2 points, if you can understand, being in the present, turning inward. Turning inward is a much more complicated. Maybe we'll discuss it some other day. But then I just presented briefly what it is means. Only human beings have that because animals don't have that kind of sense, right? So only human beings have that, and that intelligence you got to cultivate. That is not being done now in modern times because Western culture is always going outward. But then if you take deep contemplative Christian literature, they also talked about this turning inward. If you talk about uh, Sufis in the Muslim culture, they talked about this. If you turn to the Native Americans in America, they talked about this and being turning to the nature, turning towards inward, and because they consider themselves part of the nature. So if you take any ancient culture, you will see they are close to the nature and they are close to what is inward in them. But in Indian culture, they really explored about really understanding this, implementing this in their lives, and really making us understand by their writings, by their songs, by their lifestyles, how they were so simple outwardly and really had a very rich inward life. Like Ramana Maharshi, he just wore only the loin cloth. Otherwise, he didn't own anything, right? Nothing. But he was one of the greatest sages who ever lived, and people are appreciating him in 6 continents. What he talked about was, you see, your purpose of a human being life is to turn inward and find out who you are. And he always said, it's so rewarding once you find that out, and you will be rejecting a lot of outward things because they don't have any value for you. So that's a great teaching that he lived, and also he kind of talked about and gave lots of ways to realize that. He said, question yourself, who am I? I'm not this ego. I'm not this personality. And behind that superficial I or the image of the ego, we are really that sixth sense or intuitive awareness, and that is there in the hidden Chidambaram, they called it, in the inner uh, recesses of our spiritual heart. We stay as Sat Chit Anand. That means existence itself and consciousness itself, and that itself is bliss and happiness itself. Okay, so that's what he talked about, he lived about, and then he was living in a very exalted state all the time stationed in the substratum of our life, not in the body and mind. And so there was one young girl with him one time visited from England, I believe, and he taught her simple mantra like Deham, Naham, Koham, Soham. What does it mean? Deham means this body-mind complex, not just the body only, body-mind complex, because in yoga, physical body and mental body, they are all together. Actually, there are 5 layers. But anyway, he said, I'm not that body-mind complex. Then who am I? I am this unconditional, undifferentiated consciousness that is giving me life with everybody. It's like a sun reflected in the glass of water, 1,000 glasses of water are there. It is reflected like that. The ultimate reality is reflected in us as Satchit Anand. That itself is bliss. That is the consciousness, and that itself is existence. Without that, we don't have any life in our body and mind. So once you establish it in that, then you can see the life completely differently. Then all these simple things like burnout, stress, and all these things won't bother you, won't take you to the stage where your mind thinks that the life is not worth it, and then you will be succumbing to that. Okay. So any questions, Nach, now?
No, I don't have any question, Dr.
Yeah.
Totally understand what you're talking about.
Very good.
And also, what I learned from the India is Indian always keeps saying one thing, so it's always on my mind. Okay, doctor.
Yeah.
What they're saying is that if you don't understand yourself, nobody will know who you are.
Yeah.
So it means understanding yourself is more important thing for me.
Yeah. Very good. All right, so we will stop there for today. It's almost 52 minutes now, and then I'll see you with another topic some other time. But this week was about the docs and burnout. Why? I just took docs as an example, but I also sympathetic to the IT professionals, the company leaders, or even a housewife. Everybody is burning out because too much of information, too many tasks they are doing without really focusing what is important for them. A livelihood is okay, but that should not be all consuming, at the expense of who we really are. But once we realize that, we can work in calmness, with focus, and really achieve what we want to achieve. Okay, so these are important. Being in the present and turning inward is very, very important. I hope that makes sense to people, and I'll be seeing you again as and when I find a topic that is relevant that can be talked about. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, doctor, for your kind information. Totally appreciate what you shared.
Okay, bye. Okay. Anybody on the Wisdom app want to come up? You can come up now. Otherwise, I'll be closing the room. Say, let's see how many people are there. Okay, there are 32 people. Okay, if everybody is satisfied with all the material we presented, I hope that will be useful to you. Thank you. So near and let's finish this. Okay.